Welcome back to another episode of Focus Enter the Cloud. In this episode, Lloyd is joined by Oracle aficionado and all-round tech guru, Richard Pepper. In this episode, we hear about Richard's role in top-secret military projects to navigating the ever-changing landscape of enterprise tech. We'll uncover the secrets of relationship building, track Oracle's evolution, and explore Richard's pivotal role in shaping the Oracle user group. So get ready for a deep dive into the world of tech with Richard Pepper and Lloyd Gordon.
Today I'm very excited to be joined by Richard Pepper, who I've known actually for probably 20 odd years. He makes me feel so old. Not yourself, of course, but me.
Youngster.
But we met each other 20 odd years ago. So thank you very much, first of all, for coming.
Absolute
and
pleasure.
Joining us.
Excited about what you're doing here, and really keen to understand what's going on and just catch up, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Really excited.
Yeah. So we met each other 21, 22 years ago, I think it was, right?
Yeah, I think you're probably looking at 2005-ish. So going back then, I used to work for a big American company, EDS, Electronic Data Systems, before HP bought them.
Yeah.
And I was program manager, build and test program manager on the MOD. JPA, Joint Personnel Administration System, so 350,000 users, massive rollout of Oracle eBiz 11.5.10.
I remember it. Yeah,
so many people involved. I forget the budget, but 700 million.
Yeah.
And really exciting program. I think we'll talk about lessons learnt, but my 3 years on that program, I think I learnt so many work lessons, life lessons, entertainment lessons, everything, people. It was just an amazing journey, and I still reference that program. Probably talk about it too much. I reference that program in everything I do now. I'm sat in the pub, or I don't give away secrets because I'm not allowed to. But it was just an exciting time and a vibrant time, and different to what it is now.
Yeah.
And your organisation helped me at the time by just finding the right people,
Yeah.
some proper talent who are sort of people focused, and we'll talk about people focused later on. But that was if I look back now, what would I change? Probably absolutely everything, quite frankly, and try and get to the beach quicker. But generally I'm still working. The more kids I have, the more house extensions, and I need to carry on working. So good to see you again.
Yeah. And that was a big HR payroll project, if I remember.
It was HR payroll, it was finance, it was CRM. They had a deployed offline solution. I'm not giving away any secrets here, but so those who are out in the field, so say they were in a submarine and they'd be underwater for 2 months, when they came up for air, they could log on and action self-service items and changes to HCM and payroll details, bank accounts, and it would transmit those changes via satellite. So not only did we have a system that was Oracle based, we had I think it was a .NET solution that would have basic functionality for changing what was in Oracle via satellite, and then you go back down again for 3 months. Or somebody might be special forces stuck up a tree for a week and want to update their thing. I'll just check my name and address while I'm stuck up this tree. It was a very broad solution, from an infrastructure point of view, an environments point of view. We had something like 70 environments during the program.
Wow.
And went live with the RAF first, which I think about 70,000, then the Navy, and then finally the Army, and including the reservists. And if you look at some of the biggest challenges of that, which I've taken forward, is obviously the people management side, but the harmonisation and adoption of standard business processes against organisations. Yes, you've got 3 military organisations. Within those organisations, you've got another 50 operating units who'd like to do their own thing as well. And bringing all of those organisations together, integrating to external systems, was the biggest challenge of my life. And it wasn't so much a technical challenge, it was the people and behaviour and adoption challenge that was most important. And I learnt so much from that.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? I want to talk about that, and obviously stop me if there's stuff that you can't say about that project.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that when I was recruiting all these people and stuff for you on that program, because I used to be an Oracle recruiter, so my that was actually my first ERP job.
Absolutely.
Right, in recruitment. And do you know the funny thing is, you're bringing back lots of memories here, right? On day one, I remember joining the recruitment company that I joined, and they were an Oracle shop, which I stayed there for 9 years, and then halfway through I kind of went into SAP, as you know. And the truth is, I didn't understand anything about Oracle on day one, and I was extremely apprehensive about it because I'd come from an engineering and technical background. So the truth is, for the first 6 to 8 weeks, I had no idea what I was talking about. That was the truth, and I had to learn by talking to people. And obviously, I went on some kind of both internal and external courses, but I was learning as I was going on. And when we first met, I'd been doing it for a fair amount of time, and I was good at it, and I understood it. But I didn't know that you implemented that system for personnel that were underwater.
It was good.
So you couldn't make any changes to Oracle whilst they were underwater.
No, it was what was known as a deployed offline solution that would sync via satellite. So there are a lot of challenges around, well, what if somebody on land, through managed self-service updated your record, and when you came above water to change something, that was now out of sync with what they'd updated. So it was quite a complex process. From a record locking and just an integrity point of view of that data. And data integrity was so important. It was really before the days of having like a master data management solution that would control everything from a reference data point of view. Lots of nuances around, special forces and do you hide people, do you not hide people? And obviously I'm not going to go into any of the solutions, but the military is a big organisation, and alongside you've got what used to be called the Triple PA, which is the civilian side of things, and it was huge. It was huge, and there were lots of challenges, in terms of the implementation. But what a great journey. Probably fair to say, what have I learned since? Well, I sort of filled my brain with probably 70% of what I needed. And if you go back to what Oracle's about, I spent 28 years working with Oracle, and I probably know 20% of Oracle. Now, that seems strange to say, but Oracle, I don't know what the count is now, we used to have 2,000 products. I'm spending a lot of time working with the FSGBUs and construction and retail and, some of the industry solutions, which are fantastic products, which I spent a couple of years at ASOS implementing retail, and that was my only experience of it. But if you look at core, ERP, HCM, payroll, there's so much else out there, let alone the tech side of things. There's just so much to get your teeth into. And, even though I'm president of the user group, and I talk to lots of people every day about lots of things, it's still a lot, I could spend another 20 years learning about the products, and you can't consume everything, and it's important to be generic enough but specialised in certain areas that you're going to answer or need to give advice and guidance about.
I'm whilst you're talking, it's bringing back all of these memories of the Oracle market.
Good or bad memories.
No, they're good.
Interesting times. They were good times.
They are really good memories, and I certainly started in the right market. Obviously that evolved into different markets, but without that grounding, I would never have been able to do what I did in other markets. So Oracle. So we'll talk about the evolvement, I guess, of Oracle later on. But I want to focus a little bit on your career. So your career, one of the hardest things about recruiting for those companies that you was working with, and especially those projects, was not only did you need a really tough skill set, which at the time back then was quite a tough skill set to find. No, payroll guys was like, oh, okay, that's tough. Oh, and by the way, they need to be SC cleared.
Yes.
That added another level of complexity to the recruitment process.
It certainly did, and there are other elements in that. You would think there'd be a global weekly Teams call with everybody who wants to implement Oracle, be whatever industry they're in. It's like, oh yeah, Atomic Weapons Authority, AWE. So yeah, we're going to have a massive program. Oh right, okay, so that's going to hoover up all the people, so that bumps the rates up and the availability, and it's now difficult to staff. You've got to have, with an organisation like yourself, you've got to know what else is going on around you. You can't just say, right, the MOD project, and I can get everybody. Oh no, well the NHS is kicking off, and Pfizer are having a big project, and OCS are taking on lots of people, and all of a sudden it makes your job a lot harder because there's so many people after that smaller pool of resources that are available.
Yeah.
Which is why you've always got to have your, you've got your black book, but your second black book, and having the foresight to bring along the younger generation and the JADs, the grads, and the less experienced people who can come along for that journey, because it's only a finite pool of resources.
Yeah, 100%. And do you remember when slightly off topic, but do you remember when the RC UK project?
I do. Research councils
kicked off.
Yes.
Yeah. And do you remember what that did to the market?
It did, and that was an interesting one because they thought they would like to hoover up lots of people. I think when I was at Hitachi, we did a bid for RC UK. I'm trying to remember the outcome now, but there was RC UK, Heathrow, or BAA as it was then, had just kicked off a massive transformation, and it's like, where's everybody gone? What can we do? Where are we going to get people? You can't just put people on a boot camp for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
One thing we did, which was, I guess, evolutionary at the time, was that when we were at JPA at the military, we invested in South Wales, and we had a boot camp which I delivered some of the training for grads or people who haven't worked with Oracle before, and brought along about 25 people. Because we recognised on a 3 or 4 year programme, you can tie people into a certain extent, and there were financial incentives for people to stay.
Yeah.
But again, it's not necessarily enough. You need that broader pool of people in the organisation. And ultimately, from an SI's point of view, they want permanent employees for various different reasons, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with needing the flexibility of interim people. But for one reason or another, a systems integrator will have more of a margin on a permanent member of staff. Let's say, for example, they would pay them 60k and they'd sell them for 850, as opposed to, traditionally way back then it'd be 650 a day for a contractor, and you'd sell them at the same rate. So, there was that incentive to try and get as many permits as possible, but that was all blown out the water.
Yeah.
There wasn't, can I have 10 permanent people on Monday? It's like, good luck.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to get you one.
Yeah.
So, it was, I think if you look, there are periods in my life where the ability to resource projects has been completely dominated by the individuals and the candidates. I'm not quite sure where it is now, maybe you can tell me, but it's sort of somewhere in between. But it's been difficult to resource some projects, which is why organisations like yourself are so important. They take away all of that headache.
Yeah.
So
do you see it like that, honestly? Because I know we've never actually sat down and spoken about. I never really asked you, well, how do you feel about recruiters? Do you know what I mean? I'm very conscious of how customers may feel about recruiters, but I also feel like, I think, I'm going to say this, a recruiter can be your best friend, but they can also be your worst enemy.
I would, that phrase will always be out there.
Yeah.
But I think if you find an organisation, they are the lifeblood to you delivering. Because, okay, I don't want to sit down and find, I've got a black book of probably quite a few hundred people who I can call upon for a project. But that takes a lot of effort and a lot of work. And it's not just knowing that individual, it's knowing the examples of AWE kicking off. Did you know, we've just been talking to another organisation in government, they're about to kick something off.
Yeah.
And having that intelligence, it's not just a case of, right, okay, well, you're going to charge me $150 a day, and I don't want to pay that because I can do it myself. It's not just the markup on the individual, it's having that competitive intelligence that everything else is going around you. And working with an organisation like yourself, and there are, I don't know what the last number was, 15,000 recruitment agencies in the UK, not all Oracle, but that is a lot. My phone rings a lot.
Yeah.
and let's say there's a good 20, 25 key players in the Oracle market who like to phone me up every day.
Yeah.
But it's not about working. I don't see an organisation like yourself as being a purely supplier of resources. It's having a joint, with my Veran Performance hat on, and we'll talk about that. It's about having a joint go-to-market strategy with people like yourself, because you've got a lot of information, and so have I. We know a lot of key people, and we can grow businesses together, and that's how I tend to work. So it's not. You shouldn't look at it as a pure lens of, it's a necessary evil to have a recruiter, and they're going to fleece me for £100, and I could make that margin. That is so backward thinking.
Yeah,
There's much more to it.
I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't agree more, and I'm glad you brought it up. It's I think there are some really good recruiters out there.
Don't get me wrong, there are some brilliant people out there.
There's some brilliant people out there, but there's also some really not so good recruiters out there, which give a lot of the good ones a bad name. But that's just business.
I think it's got better. I think the industry has sort of cleaned up its act. I mean, there are a lot of scattergunning of CVs. There's a lot of collection of CVs and information. I used to get phone calls from people pretending to be something else and trying to get information out of me. There's a lot of underhand tactics. I think the industry is a lot cleaner than it used to be. There's a lot more respected, and it is a shame for the great organisations to be, brought down by certain tactics. But I think the industry is better than what it used to be.
I'd agree with that to a certain extent. I think there are some organisations out there that still use those underhanded tactics, but I think this is about trust, isn't it?
It is. It's about a long-term business rather than a quick sale of one person, and you've really screwed somebody over, and so, I'm not going to deal with them again. I've got a quick sale, but I've got no long-term reputation. And you want the repeat business, you want those annuity revenues and those contracts, be it in a delivery or a managed service point of view or a consulting point of view. You want that relationship, and it's all about relationships and trust.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, 100%. And I think that's actually from a recruiter's point of view as well.
Yeah.
The great customers that we have and we have had. I'm talking previous career here.
Yeah.
They've always been one based on trust. Like, for example, if you called me up and you said, and let's say it was a Friday, and you said, I'm in a sticky position and I need someone by Monday, you've got to know that that person is going to work the weekend. You have to know, because you've got delivery.
It's that flexibility. We're all in consulting. We know that come a go live, we're going back to the MOD, we worked 6 weekends in a row for various different reasons. It wasn't necessarily delayed, for a number of reasons. We had to get some new legislation in, for example. Right, okay, well, you've got to build up trust with somebody and treat them properly to say, can you work the 6th weekend in a row? Is that okay? Because if you're not a people person and you demand that, then they won't. And it's as simple as that. And the way I built up that team was very much a case of getting to know them. We'd go out for a beer, we'd talk to each other. How are the kids? Rather than straight in without any pleasantries. You've got to be nice
here's
to
your work.
Here's
your work.
You're working at the weekend again.
Yeah.
But then people walk out and they don't. So you've got to build up a relationship to ask them to do that in the first place.
Yeah, I know that project was a really tough project, especially to resource for, because of the element of not only the skill set, but also the element of they must be SC cleared already. So your candidate pool goes from this to this straight away, or they must be SC clearable.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't bad in terms of it had to be DV, developed vetting, because that can take 6 months and £10,000 and lots of interviews. But in addition to that, I would say that everybody had to be a people person and have the ability to sit in a room and listen to 3 different conflicting opinions and people who wanted to own the outcome and drive forward their agenda as to how a business process would work, bring those people together, to a common, harmonised view of a business process. That was almost the biggest skill. The project, there was no failures around the technology. You can always, if there's a bug, you can fix it, you can do stuff, you can get Oracle on the phone from the States. It's the way that people behave to bring people together and the adoption. That's why I'm working at Veran Performance at the moment, because they absolutely realise the value of getting things right from a people point of view.
Yeah.
SaaS is so much, it's not a technical exercise anymore. And I remember Mark Hurd before he passed away, he was working with Oracle and HP when I was there. He said that systems integrators will change over time with the SaaS model, because it's about the functional process knowledge, it's about the best practice. There are technical elements to data, but again, data is not necessarily a technical exercise. It's about harmonising your master data management, it's about cleansing your data before you bring it into the new system. There's integration, and you might have bits of PAS to bring in, say, FX rates from somewhere, but you've got to be off the shelf. So it's a people adoption exercise rather than a sort of technical exercise. So now SaaS is very much about having candidates with people skills, as opposed to, I've got a first class degree, I went to Redbrick University, I'm amazing on paper, but I can't bring people together in a room and get the best outcome in a friendly way. So that is the skill now, on top of anything technical.
So obviously the HP and the MOD project and the DWP project as well, if I remember
Central
rightly.
Payment System. I was up in Blackpool.
Yeah.
Worst Hilton in the world. It's probably better now.
I went to...
You can cut that bit out if I get sued by the Hilton, but it wasn't great.
No, the Hilton's great. The Hilton's great
amazing.
everywhere you go. Except Blackpool. No, I didn't say that.
That's probably better now.
I remember I went to a customer actually up there, and it was the first time in the area, and I did look around and go, this is nice.
That's some good nights.
There was a lot of people that wouldn't go to those locations. You know that?
Do you know what?
Because you demanded back in the day, in all technologies, right? Not only Oracle. It was. Do you remember the days of they've got to be on site?
Absolutely, and still on site at 5 p.m. on a Friday.
Yeah.
And I've worked with some great clients in less exotic locations. I'm not going to drop any locations that I don't like, but there are sometimes you have to blindfold consultants and then take it off when they get there and don't tell them where it is. I'm joking, but I worked with Oracle Consulting, and we had some great times in Blackpool, and we worked at it was an old World War II. It was a military hospital with the longest corridors in the world. And I remember there was a lady there in the canteen. She was so funny. And you could have either gravy and beans with anything. So you'd have a sandwich and she said, "Do you want beans with that?" It's like, "Yeah, go on then." And we'd just be eating the finest
and chips.
Cuisine. Gravy, do you want gravy with your sandwiches to dunk it in? Like her menu wasn't quite Michelin 3-star. I think it was -3-star, quite frankly. But just the camaraderie of working with Oracle on that project was amazing. And I've got so many stories, which again I can't necessarily share, but if you look at that system, it was paying 60 million people pretty much on a daily basis. So if you think of an organisation's year end, they were doing that every day. And it was the heart and soul of the whole social system in the UK that was running on Oracle. So it was sort of one wrong move and you're on the front pages. And it was a slating. And I do feel sorry for organisations, and we were in Private Eye a couple of times, and I think the press like to see a potentially bungled public sector IT implementation for any reason.
They're always out there, aren't they?
And that's the nature of the beast, and you are sort of looking over your shoulder to make sure that you're doing things from a PR perspective and doing the right thing. Ultimately you do, but it's really important that you're thinking about implementations from all perspectives, and it goes back to the people as well, making sure you're doing the right thing for the system that that's serving from a facilitation point of view. What is it giving? If I'm a single parent with 3 kids and I need my money paid into my account, and it doesn't happen. I can't pay my rent. I can't buy food. I can't buy clothes for the kids. These are mission critical systems. And if you do it for that reason, always thinking about that, then you'll always get the best outcome.
Yeah.
Don't do it for money. Don't do it for PR. If your heart is in doing it for the right reason, everything else will get delivered.
Yeah.
Because you drive yourself by doing it for the right reason and not for any other reason. And that always helps in terms of my mentality. Why am I getting out of bed? Well, I've got 3 kids to feed and I've got everything else to do. But if you do it for the right reasons, because I want to help this person get better, they want to improve their lives, that's why I get out of bed.
Yeah.
It helps to have money to pay the mortgage and all that sort of thing, but that should never be the primary driver, because you won't be successful in the long run, because you'll trip yourself up.
Money really doesn't they say money makes the world go round, right? But I don't agree with that from a career perspective.
No.
I really don't. I think you've hit the nail on the head when you say, like, you've got to be emotionally invested in the work that you're doing. And if you're doing it for money, you can do a great job doing something for money. Let's, make no bones about it, but it's got to be more. Otherwise, once you've earned that money, you kind of go, I've got to go to work again. Because you've earned enough money, right? You've earned enough money to pay whatever you need to pay.
And when is enough? I'm just turned 50, and I said I'm retiring at 55, and I think, maybe 56, I could do with a bit more, and
don't get me into that conversation. I was talking about it with my wife yesterday.
When is enough? Because I could have. I'm not a mega wealthy person, and I'm not interested in my third, offshore property and that sort of thing. But, yes, I could have earned a lot more money, but I'm happy. I sleep at night, and I do okay. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. But
you've got to have that foundation of doing the right thing, because I'm a big believer in life that there are lots of people out there, and I meet them every day in terms of they're doing it for themselves. And I think you can see through that quite quickly, and it goes back to that point of trust. If you can see that somebody's doing it for themselves, how can you trust them in the long term? Because when the going is tough and somebody's doing it for themselves, will they support you? And I think ultimately that's what it's about. You've got to, when I interview people or meet people, I want to make sure that I know that they're there for the journey if it gets tough.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of people in my life who haven't been for that journey necessarily. Maybe I didn't know at the time, but I'm a lot more cautious now and inquisitive to make sure that I work with people who have got similar beliefs in terms of what I'm looking to achieve.
Yeah. It's funny you bring this up, right? I was when you mention money, money's almost one of those things that, as a recruiter, we hear it every day, every call, this is the money I want.
Absolutely.
And stuff like that. But there's other reasons. There's other reasons why candidates move roles, or clients want people or whatever. They don't necessarily always care too much about the money. And as a recruiter, you should qualify someone based on those, what we call MITs, the most important things.
Yes.
And if money is number one, that puts your grading down of the person. Because that, hey, for example, if I get you tell me you want 100 grand, and you're on 90 grand in your current role, and then I ask you what you're going to do if the current company counter offers you to 100k, and you hesitate in your response to me, and I hear that,
it's a flag.
I'm thinking, this is a deal breaker, and I don't think this person is doing it for the right reasons. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think similarly on the client side as well, I have lots of conversations which largely come around positively around value versus cost.
Yeah.
Cost is almost irrelevant. It's what value is this. So, okay, I'm in a world where, if I'm a contractor, there's 4-figure day rates out there, but it's not about how much is it costing. What value can you bring to the business? If I go in at that rate, or a rate that's 3 figures, you can have one conversation with the board and say, do you know what? That's actually saved us 3 million quid. It's not about looking at a piece of paper, looking at a cost, and I know there is still a fixation around, potentially CFOs and CapEx and not looking at the TCO, and I'll get that because there is pressure, budgets have been set at the start of the year, etc. But look at the longer term value of what you're paying for, and sometimes that is still ignored purposefully or forgotten, and it's so important to not fixate on either side about that day rate or about that salary. If you look at post-COVID era now, it's a candidate's market in terms of, well, I'm assuming I'm working from home 3 days a week. You've got to have come along for that ride. Yes, you will get certain CEOs saying everybody's back in the office 5 days a week, and the candidates are effectively saying, well, that's nice. I'll go somewhere where I can be a bit more flexible, because COVID has allowed people to take their kids to school, to go to the dentist, to do have a life. And I think if you trust people to work hard, I work in the evenings, I work at weekends on an RFP, because I know that I'm in an industry which isn't 9 to 5. I know that I'm in an industry that demands that, and I support. If I've committed to a client to go live with a certain date, I'll work three weekends in a row. I'll fly to India and help the team. I'll do this, that, and the other, because I've signed up to that, and I've signed up to it for the right reasons. I haven't signed up to it for a day rate or a salary. I've given my commitment to a person that I'm going to do that for you and help you.
It's a byproduct, isn't it?
Yeah,
the money of it becomes a byproduct,
and it's needed. I think everybody should have their value and know what they're worth.
Yeah.
But you should also be able to articulate cost versus value and say, right, okay, I'm worth this because of this, or I will do something at this cost because of this, this, and this, and this. It should always be about the longer term picture. Yes, there's an immediate engagement, but you should be looking where else you can help that organisation, and not be, I think it's much better now, but 20 years ago, there was a mentality of, it's 5 o'clock, I know I'm on a call, but I'm leaving now, I'm going home. And I think people, if they're treated in the best possible way, there's a work hard, play hard mentality, there's a flexibility. The number of times my phone goes off and it's the kids' school, it's like, right, what's happened? Just banged ahead, you need to come home immediately. Right, okay. I've got employees who, it's like, off you go. I'll do that call on the train on the way back, and I'll work in the evenings. Every organisation should be like that, because nobody's a slave to an organisation, because you're helping them, unless you're the owner, get to a better place. So, everybody should respect each other in terms of how they're working.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I was coming on to I'm a lot more philosophical since the first time we met, right?
Now they're in the 70s like me then.
Yeah, and some. And it's funny, right? About 6 months ago, I'm one of these people, I think really deeply when I've got time to think really deeply, which is usually on the train or whilst I'm driving along the way, right? And I got off at London Bridge, and I was thinking about why people do things, right? Don't ask me why. I was thinking about why are people coming into London, right? Some of them don't live in London. Why are they having to travel into London, and they're walking across the bridge in the morning and stuff like that? And as you know, when you're walking across the bridge, there's loads of people there. So I'm the guy that's there with my headphones on, and they're not on. Right, so I just wanted
I put my noise cancelling headphones. I'm not listening to anything.
To focus on what I'm thinking about, and I'm walking across this bridge. And do you know what I was thinking? I was looking around people. It's really embarrassing me saying this, right? But I will say it. I was looking around at people, just thinking, do you know what? All of these people have got families, or they're going to have families, and most of these people are good people. They're just good people, and they're just trying to do the best for themselves and the best for their families and earn money, and that's okay. Do you know what? I don't know why I was thinking it, but I did, and I think I've done a post on it actually when I got to the office.
I think everybody's got something going on. There's lots of memes on the internet around. Everybody's got some stuff going on in their life, and you don't know what's going on. Just be nice and kind to people. And I've had a few instances in my life when it's not been amazing. and you've turned up to work and put on a brave face and then just gone outside and screamed or had a cry or gone for a beer and something, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and we're in quite a challenging geopolitical, environmental situation at the moment. It's quite precarious, and if you've got to stop and think, because the plug could be pulled in so many directions. It's short term, medium, or long term for any of us. So you've got to give yourself time to take stock, stop on London Bridge, and just have a look around you and look at the big pointy thing and think, oh, that's good, and you've got to make time for yourself. And I think, mentally, I've been through some challenges and times in my life when, whoa, this isn't good, and you build it resolve and strength, and you learn from it and coping mechanisms. But life shouldn't be about having coping mechanisms for everything. It should be about just choosing the right direction to go and work with the right people that share your ideas and beliefs in doing the same thing. And largely, I believe if you work hard and you do the right thing, largely the money will sort itself out and everybody will right. Direct people. I'm a director. I occasionally do something, but it's pointing. I'm a director of
not all directors are like that, by the way.
And it's very much, I direct my kids. I don't sort of sit down and micromanage them. If my daughter's 15 and she she doesn't let me know where she is, and it's dark and it's 2 hours and I've not heard from her, and I'll phone her up, and she's out with her mates in a cafe and she's quite happy doing stuff. But when she comes home, I will direct her in terms of, maybe do this thing differently, or just I don't care where you are, just let me know what's going on. It's dark, etc. And it's a using your experience to chaperone and direct people, because I can't be a president of user group, a program manager, a head of Oracle, and a programmer, because you can't be all of that. You should, each time you move on to something. I'm somebody who, within 3 years, I want to move on to the next thing. And ideally, it's not necessarily upwards, but a different challenge. I'm not particularly interested in being a CEO. I'm not particularly interested in being on the front pages of magazines, but I want to go into something that is another challenge, and ideally sort of 50%'s worth of, you've done that 50% before, but this bit you haven't, because that gets me out of bed and say, I've not done it before. No, I'm going to do a bit of research, I'm going to do this and just experience, and that went pretty well. So keep building upon it and adding 50% of what you've not done before is my challenge. I must admit, I don't get motivated by doing exactly the same thing for another company, because you're almost going through the motions. In my view, it's got to be exciting, it's got to be different, it's got to be a challenge, and that's what I like. I agree, obviously.
It was when I first met you, I didn't have any inclinations of starting my own company.
Interesting. I mean, I've been involved in various different ventures. I've probably spent, two-thirds of my life as a permie. Although I've been saying that for years, so it's probably about half my life as a permanent employee now. And various different ventures. You learn a lot. I spent a lot of time in investment banking, and that is an industry that came out of the 80s. And there are some interesting people there, and you do learn a lot. You learn when not to talk, you learn when to listen, and you learn when to take notes. I remember getting probably a couple of bollockings in my life from just not being prepared. One of them was the MOD. And I went into a meeting and was requesting stuff, and the person I worked for was such a meticulous attention to detail. I didn't have the answers, and I was clipped round the ear and basically told not to come back. And you think, I've learned a lot from that. And then an incident in investment banking where that can be a tough crowd. Before the days that of the financial crisis, and again, so the banks looking at different ways of behaving, that could be a tough industry as well. Most clients are tough to work because they expect, there's a lot of, I think more so now, if you look at the way that organisations operate, people want a lot more with a lot less. which is why I think Gen AI is coming into the fore, because you can get a lot more with a lot less spend. But I think people's behaviours have changed, and they've had to behave. There's only so much that you can stripe off or sharpen your pencils to the point where, say, a systems integrator can't deliver it. And if you can't deliver something, say, at a fixed price, but you accept it, then behaviours change right from day one. Because if you've been really sort of driven into the ground on price, it immediately affects behaviours, and your outcome isn't the best it could be.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to my cost and value. If one part of the organisation is saying I work for organisations who say, I've got 600k and I've already told the business I'm going live in September. All right, okay, we're interested to know how what your plan is. No, we've already told them that that's happening. And you've already driven a stake through potentially the success of what's going on. And then you get bids in from suppliers and they're all £1 million, and you're having to de-scope already, and you can't deliver. So you've got to work with organisations, and I always say there's 4 legs to a stool, and then I remember 3 of them, I can't remember the 4th one. But you've got to work with the client, you've got to work with Oracle, you've got to work with a systems integrator, and importantly work with organisations like the Oracle user group, where we've got hundreds of customers who are doing the same thing.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that.
Go and talk to other people. Maybe it's a good segue, but there are 4 component parts to success, and you've got to work in partnership. You've got to leave your badge at the door. You've got to think, well, I'm from consultancy X, now I'm from here. Sometimes contracts are devised, right from the start, where people are competing and not working as a team. And if you look at some of the projects I've worked on, the best ones have worked with a joint risk and reward approach. In terms, if we all do well, we all do very well. If we all do badly, we all share the financial pain, the pain of correcting things. So let's all work better together.
Yeah.
And I always propose that if there are multiple partners involved, commercially, you look at those contracts from a holistic point of view, rather than these people are driven by a fixed price, these people are driven by this. They're not going to talk to each other properly, because their contract has dictated that there are dependencies on these other organisations to do their bit. So procurement and contract management from a big implementation point of view is really important.
Yeah. What do you think? How do you think that Oracle has changed over the years? So if we span that over 20 years,
yeah.
How do you think Oracle has changed as an organisation? Has it changed as an organisation? And in your opinion, how has the product got so much better? Because what I'm seeing at the moment, and as you know, we're about to launch an Oracle division within the Focus Cloud Group. And there was a period back in, I guess, pre-COVID, when that Fusion product did not have the best reputation.
Yeah.
And it allowed, because Oracle somewhat has a very good user base, of course, in the UK and Europe, and of course the US.
Yeah.
But the new Fusion product allowed other vendors to scoop up some of those customers. And I know that they have improved that since.
Okay.
So how do you think?
Do you know what? You've almost answered that question, and it's very perceptive in how you've summarised the last 10 years. So if you look at, when I started in 95, I did Oracle Database, Forms 3 and character-based stuff, and did a bit of Power Builder. And there's been times when I think all vendors have been either caught sleeping, or they've potentially been a bit too belligerent and arguably arrogant in that we're in charge, but there's a few guys in a shed at the bottom of the garden who are developing some cool stuff, and I think that's happened 2 or 3 times if you look at any vendor, and it's not just Oracle. It is sort of a bit of a rowing race like that, in terms of, it's good to have that competition. If you go back to Oracle in 95, they brought out Forms 4, which was a GUI-based, post-character-based implementation. And it was a bit flaky. It wasn't, so it very quickly got a reputation. So you had organisations and products like Power Builder, like Fox Pro, and a few others which were, Visual Basic back in the day, where they just leapfrogged a product. If you look at, which is the reason I use Macs, if you look at Windows 8, do you remember Windows 8? That wasn't the best.
I'm not that
Windows
old.
8 is not.
No, it's
but that wasn't. Windows 8 was, let's copy the interface from the Xbox.
Yeah.
Everybody hated it. Well, you can still find a start bar if you. And I was logging on to Windows 8. I couldn't print for about a day. I didn't know what to press.
Yeah.
So there are brave decisions, and that's why I've used an Apple Mac ever since. Windows 8 is the fault of that. But if you go back to that example in '95, where competitors saw the opportunity, they weren't necessarily. I don't think they were looking at Oracle and saying Forms 4 isn't very good. I think they just happened to be in the market at the time.
Yeah.
Implementing a Windows 3.1 or Windows NT GUI development software. Microsoft were, ahead of the game there as well. If you look at Oracle had a glory period of probably 10 or 15 years of, from an apps point of view, there's a million bespoke bits and bobs going on in the database, and that was all brilliant. Still in Forms 4.5 is a brilliant product. Reports, Discoverer, I did a lot of Designer 2000, wrote training courses for that. A great suite of products, really sweet, really good. And I could hang my hat on it, because if you're trying to implement something which you don't believe in, that's tough as well. You can't implement slideware. You can't implement something that's flaky, and when you press on a button to save, it gives you a GPF or a blue screen of death, and it all crashes. There's only so many times you can survive that with a customer. If you, going back to your question, if you look at ERP, for example, 11.03, 11.5, 10, brilliantly stable products. 12, brilliantly stable. I wouldn't say that Fusion's ever been unstable. I think it's still it's come on leaps and bounds, and we can talk about that, about Redwood interface and so on. But there were, famously, there was a time, and it's all over YouTube, when Larry said, "Cloud, what's all the hype about cloud? It's just a program on somebody else's computer, just hosted." And there was a difference then between what cloud meant and what SaaS meant. And I think I did rest on their laurels for a few years. So you got, quite a few ex-Oracle employees who I think this SaaS business is going to be the future. It's not about just hosting it on somebody else's computer. It's about having a mentality of best practice, software as a service that you access through an internet browser. Why on earth would you, first of all, have your own data center? Because that's hard work. Why would you want to download, you'd have a load of floppy disks turn up or CDs turn up on your desk, somebody go around and say, "I want to implement your new software, go and have a sandwich for an hour." And then they had sort of SMS downloads, so it'd be done every night. And now, I've not got one piece of software that isn't core operating system downloaded. Everything's SaaS.
Yeah.
And a SaaS first mentality. I'm a cloud advocate and a SaaS advocate.
Yeah.
As much as I absolutely adore eBusiness Suite, very strong apps unlimited set of products. Things are going SaaS because I think of generally the hosting side of things. But Oracle are offering such a broad set of options for customers. They're offering multi-cloud, which is great. So Microsoft, great relationship with Azure now. They're offering apps unlimited. So if you look at products like PeopleSoft, JD Edwards, Siebel, eBusiness Suite, and other application technology, you can get rid of your headache of your own data center and put it on Gen 2 OCI, so Oracle's cloud infrastructure. So you're moving that workload, moving the applications onto an Oracle server. That's cool. Or you can go down the route of SaaS. So there's still innovation in apps unlimited products. You've still got regulatory changes, anything that comes in from the government around payroll, for example, you will still get all of that functionality.
Yeah.
You could argue that there's a lot more innovation, a lot more standardization, harmonization of product. Not to the extent, although I do talk to customers and they say, "What does SaaS mean?" I said, right, you need to go in with a thought and a mindset of, you're getting Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. Are you going to change that, the way it's implemented? Are you going to phone up Microsoft and request a new button? No, you don't. You've got to put yourself in that mindset of, SaaS is I don't change it. I can configure it, but not customize it. Release 12, release 11.5, 10. Work with some organisations, they've got 1,000 customisations.
Yeah,
and they
I
could
remember.
be, Chemleys as they used to be called. And their journey can be troublesome to move to the cloud. Yeah, for some organisations, an upgrade is the right way. Other organisations, a re-implementation is the right way.
Yeah.
And the more mergers and acquisitions you do, and the financial crisis has meant that some organisations disappear, some get bought, some get divested. There's so many things going on. But there was, going back to Larry's point, and I don't know when it was in the 2000s, but you could argue, and Oracle will admit there was a time, a couple of years when they kept sleeping. And if you look at Workday, if you look at Salesforce, if you look at ServiceNow, all off the ground, bottom up SaaS products, which were based on the premise of having best practice functionality that you don't change, you configure it. So, and then I think there was a lot of catch up. And now if you look at, I'm an Oracle advocate, and if you look at, I did a lot of work in HCM now, as it's called, which is their initiative for mid-enterprise. If you look at what they're doing, and their Redwood interface is brilliant.
Yeah.
Oracle was a bit stale in terms of its interface, and I think if you look at SaaS, it's got to be about that user experience. If you go and look at a house or a car or absolutely anything, it's your first impression of when you log on, it's like, that's a bit dull, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't really want to use this every day.
That was the issue, right?
And I think largely, I don't think it was the functionality, but if you look at the way that it's all set up now and the journeys, it's not a technical exercise to go and joiners, movers, leavers process in HCM, for example. That shouldn't be a technical pain to enter in what was effectively might have looked like a spreadsheet on the internet. Well, and Oracle is brilliant now in terms of its, there's a lot about the user experience. And if you listen to Safra at Cloud World, and I work with Emma Sutton a lot, and she's brilliant. She's CXO, customer experience leader for EMEA, and it's about the customer. It's about how they feel, and happy customers will buy more and they'll renew.
Yeah.
Because if you look at where Apps Unlimited is at the moment, customers have got a lot of choice. If they're thinking, right, okay, I've got my on-prem stuff, I might go and have a look at Workday, I might go and have a look at there's some other stuff going on. I've got a choice now. If I've got to uproot everything, I'm going to go and look at different vendors.
Yeah.
So if your product isn't at least looking as good and the functionality is not as good as the others, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You've got to watch out. You've got to work twice as hard to sell it and convince
Absolutely.
people to stay where they are. So I think with all vendors, and Oracle's no different to anybody else. If you look at what SAP are doing, Unit 4 potentially almost forcing customers to move to their SaaS products like HANA, etc. They almost don't have a choice. Oracle have stuck by their customers and said you have got a choice, because if you try and force an organisation to do anything, if I try and force my kids to eat the greens, they'll hide it under the table and no one talk to me for a day.
Yeah.
So you can't force customers to do anything.
Yeah.
You can influence them by giving them incentives, but that incentive has got to be around harmonisation and simplifying your business with a cloud product. And Fusion's not just ERP and HCM payroll, it's the EPM suite as well, which is massively important for post-COVID scenarios of organisations. So strategic workforce planning. What if COVID happens? What if there's a geopolitical crisis? And modelling everything in terms of planning and budgeting, cloud service. That's just so important to de-risk your organisation.
Yeah.
Because shareholders want to know that you've modelled scenarios of another COVID. What are you going to do? They want to model a situation of some of the crises around the world. How does that impact us if you're an oil company working in the Middle East, or you've got organisations in unstable areas? Have you modelled that?
Yeah.
So that your business can remain stable? If you look at some of the banks in the financial crisis, some survived, some collapsed, and you've got to spend and you've got to invest in modelling the future for your organisation. Oracle EPM is great at that.
It's interesting because we recently went out to market for a new financial software, and we chose. So I went through the sales process with my team, and we chose a product, right? After looking at multiple vendors, and one of the big ticks for me was, if you buy this product, you're going to be able to see that the next time you do an acquisition, you can see if that business drops 10% revenue or increases 20% revenue. You will be able to see what the group result will be just of a click of a button, Lloyd. And me being, I'm not an accountant. I don't know if I ever told you that I'm not an accountant. You probably know that anyway, right? But I'm not. And I want the best software that I can log into. Yes, I have a team of accountants now, in our thing, and they are a different mindset to what I am, and they understand all that stuff.
They are, and I think accountants have absolutely got a firm place, and they need to roll up that information to you to be able to make those decisions. I think if you run a business based on accountancy, ultimately you'll fail because you're driving the wrong behaviours. Your business should be based on people experience and not accountancy. If you're obsessed by the numbers, then ultimately you will drive people away.
Yeah. So obviously you're the president of the Oracle User Group. Why did you set that up? Why are you in? Because the Oracle User Group's been going for a long time, right?
41 years this year.
So why did you want to do that? What's the kind of motivation?
So it was largely around my interest in customer journeys, because and wanting goes back to that 4 legs on the stool. There was always that missing piece. I always had a bit of an interest and a passion for user groups because it was a volunteer organisation. It's a not-for-profit organisation, and again that drives the right behaviours. As soon as you put commercialism behind anything, it drives the wrong behaviours, because you act in a different way to get money. Going back to other shout out, Simon Hayes I worked with, he was my boss. He was the chairman of the user group in '97. I thought, oh, he's really cool and important. I said, I was just a programmer when I was 23 or something. It's like one day I could do that role. And I was just joking. And he dropped me a note a year ago saying, I remember when you were sat there, delivering training courses or something, and now it's sort of, it's really interesting of, I don't know who was looking down on me. For me to go into that role 26 years later, I wouldn't have even thought about it. But the more and more I worked in change and transformation, the more and more it sort of naturally felt to be a people person, and that be the route to successful implementations is understanding what a client wants, because you've got salespeople who want to sell products, you've got systems integrators who, everybody's got the best intentions, but you've got to have so many different elements for it to be a success. So I applied to be the member advocate. I sort of sat and looked at the user group from afar. I presented at the user groups in Birmingham and various things that represented the MOD case study, and always looked at it from afar and thought, it's quite interesting to do. I don't have any hobbies. I want to do Oracle as a hobby as well. It's really sad. So I do have hobbies. And it was a case of, so I applied to be a member advocate and I didn't get it. I thought, okay then, I'll leave that alone. They phoned me up after and said, I know you didn't get it, but is there something else you want to do with us? So I was just on the board as a minister without portfolio, and so I got to know everybody. I thought, sort of shaping stuff. And then, I recognised that post-COVID, the organisation was shot to pieces. It used to be a rich organisation with 20 permanent staff. Now we're still, looking down by the sofa for pennies sometimes, but still providing organisations with the ultimate support that they need.
It's valuable, isn't it?
It's absolutely valuable. And so I decided to be president, which sounds like a great, fantastic role. I don't have a long red tie. I haven't worn a tie for years. But it's a role
I
that... I
haven't worn a shirt for years.
No,
it's just joking.
Dressed down Friday. So no, I'm not usually. I'm normally at home in a t-shirt watching Netflix when I'm not with clients. So it was a case of do you know what? People who work for the user group, they don't know why they do it. It's a bit like a tractor beam. So I must do it. I must work for the user group. But because again, it's just the right thing to do, and it's not commercially motivated. I don't get anything from the user group. I think they paid my flights to go to somewhere recently, but no, it's a voluntary role, because what it allows me to do is learn more about the Oracle product set, how you implement it, and learn more about, I guess, the challenges and how people are feeling. So what that does in my day job allows me to have, guide people for a smoother journey, which again, ultimately, the byproduct is, I need to earn some money. But it's all being absorbed. I talked to lots of different. I went up to Manchester to a retail company the other day, and I just listened. I always say the biggest skill is listening and not talking. And I've spoken a lot, but listening to customers, and gathering that, sleeping on it. And I gave this retail organisation a 10-point sort of plan of set them on a better course. How to work with the SI, how to work with Oracle over Christmas, where these guys are doing millions of stock movements every day. And I got a lot out of that. A cup of tea would be nice, but didn't get any.
You didn't get a cup of tea or a coffee?
No, I'm joking. We went to Greg's, actually. I'm not giving away the company.
No,
I treated everybody to Greg's
after the podcast.
Oh no, it wasn't Greg's. No, it wasn't. I went to Greg's. Plug for Greg's. I do like Greg's sausage rolls. Good for my cholesterol. Why do I do it? And do you know what? I don't know. But I do it because somebody needs to do it, and somebody needs to be in charge, and bring it back on its feet to its glory days. Yeah. And it's just something I really enjoy doing. And I like being up on stage and beaming up pictures in front of Oracle of Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes, because I'm a Mercedes fan. Sorry, Oracle. And making it a bit more light-hearted, but again, sort of attracting people to ultimately the knowledge that we've got, the connections that we've got, the networking. It's a fantastic organisation. So we're rebranding. I've got some new branding on my phone, which I've been looking at. We've got Leona bringing in some great assets around just managing the organisation. She's got her own CX company, so she's CEO. It's very important to be independent from Oracle. But in order to get the right knowledge for our customers, we need to be very closely to Oracle. Yeah. My role isn't to necessarily really give Oracle a hard time. It's to understand the best way to get things done.
The challenges. Yeah,
so I've spent a lot of time working with Oracle to make sure that everybody works closely together. Yeah. So we've had a renewed support and worked hard, and we do give up our own time to do this. And it's a great team. Shout out to that team who put on events for 700 people with less than a handful of volunteers. That's dedication and hard work, and doing it for the right reason. For no commercial value to them. That's good. Well, look, I want to say to you that when I decided that we are going to launch this Oracle division, I was sitting there in my office at home. And I thought, and we're talking about years and years and years ago, by the way, right? Yeah. So we haven't done Oracle yet. We've been doing some Oracle stuff in the background, for our customers and helping them to find some people, and we've made lots of placements and all that sort of stuff. But we've not physically launched this division yet. And and when we first spoke a few months ago, after many years, I was sitting in my office at home, and I thought, I racked my brains about all my old Oracle contacts, and I thought, Pepper. I really did. And I thought he was a great guy. Is that Pepper the Oracle robot? He's called Pepper as well.
No, Richard Pepper. Richard Pepper. So Richard Pepper, you've got a very distinctive name, right?
It's
not like I can get you confused with someone else, because
no one has. There's quite a few. There's a Jason. There's a Robert. There's one at version 1. There's 2 at Oracle. There's quite a few.
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway.
they must be in the. Since the period I've been out.
I think they must get all of my commission payments, because I haven't seen any recently. I'm not sure what's going on.
But I want to say, I think that you definitely got a very good reputation in the marketplace, I
Thank you.
think that, you know, I commend you for the Oracle user group stuff that you do. I think it's brilliant. It can only help the ecosystem, right?
That's what it's about. Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Good to see you
Thanks
again.
for coming in.
Good luck with
I
your
appreciate it.
new ventures in Oracle.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.